The movie follows a team of skilled robbers led by Charlie Croker, as they attempt to steal a large number of gold bars from a safe as revenge on a former ally who betrayed them and left them for dead in an icy cold water in Venice, Italy. Hello, and welcome to I Am Movies. John Bridger, who had just been released from prison, contacts his daughter Stella while in Venice, Italy. He tells her that he wants to send her a present, but she's wary and asks if he has a receipt, knowing his history of theft. Their conversation is cut short, and John joins up with Charlie and 4 other team members: Lyle,
Yeah, Gilligan, if you don't mind.
Left Ear, Handsome Rob,
Language of poetry, art, romance, sex.
and Steve Roselli. Their target is a safe containing $35 million in gold bars, located beneath a water-based house. The team plants a bomb under the safe, causing it to plummet into the water, and successfully cracks the safe underwater. After a thrilling speedboat chase involving the police and security personnel, they manage to escape with the gold. Following their successful heist, the team convenes on a snow-covered mountain, where John raises a toast to Charlie for flawlessly planning the operation. They discuss how they plan to spend their portion of the spoils and share a few laughs before departing. However, their journey is interrupted when they are double-crossed by some of Steve's men while crossing a bridge. Steve demands that Handsome Rob take his hand off the steering wheel while pointing a gun at him. Steve's men begin to unload the gold from the bus. Steve turns his gun on John, who is attempting to exit the vehicle. Steve gets down from the bus and points his gun at John, who was trying to get down. John reminds him that they'll find him. Steve agreed and shot John immediately.
There's nowhere you can go where we won't find you, Steve. You know that.
I think that's probably right, John.
Handsome Rob quickly drives to escape, but the bus fell off the bridge into the cold, icy river. Steve continued to shoot to make sure they were dead. Luckily, they escaped to the riverbank, where Charlie mourns over the death of his mentor. In the meantime, Stella Bridger has taken up lockpicking for the police and has just completed a job, earning praise for her skill. Upon returning to her office, she encounters Charlie Croker, who informs her that he has located Steve and wants to retrieve the stolen gold. However, Stella declines Charlie's proposal, asserting that she is not a thief like her father. However, later that night, Stella has a change of heart and contacts Charlie, stating that she wants to witness the look on Steve's face when they steal the gold back and agrees to join the team.
I want to see the look on that man's face when his gold is gone.
In the morning, Charlie introduces the team to Stella, then reveals the team's new identities to the members. Following this, the crew strategize the heist, commencing with surveillance of Steve's property and devising a plan to take control of the traffic. And finally, they decided to take the first step. They plan to go inside Steve's house with Stella as the spy, since she is the only one who Steve doesn't recognize.
The only problem is Steve thinks we're all dead.
Except me. I'll do it, Charlie.
Meanwhile, Steve is still attempting to sell the gold bars to Yevon, a money launderer. During their meeting, Yevon buys 2 bars of gold and assures Steve that he will acquire more in the future. Meanwhile, the team is keeping a close watch on Steve as they refine their strategy. They decide to infiltrate Steve's mansion disguised as repairmen, with Rob and Lyle obtaining a work bus and uniform from a repair company. Rob opts to seduce one of the repairwomen to gain access to her uniform in the bus. After employing some of his best pickup lines,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Nice to meet you,
he convinces her to spend the night with him, and the following morning, he stealthily steals her uniform and copies the bus key. They quickly gave the uniform and key to Stella for her to pretend as the cable lady. In the meantime, Left Ear had interfered with Steve's TV cable, prompting Steve to contact the repair shop for assistance. However, the team had already gained access to his cell phone, and they responded to his call. Stella, wearing a concealed camera on her chest, drove the bus to Steve's location, where she was met by his aggressive dogs. Steve eventually introduced himself to her, and as they entered the house, he bragged about his possessions and the size of his TV. Using the camera, they obtained the blueprint of the house, while Stella searched for the location of the safe. Steve also attempted to flirt with Stella and asked her out on a date, which she initially refused but later accepted after some persuasion. After Stella's encounter with Steve, she feels restless and unsettled from meeting her father's killer. Charlie meets up with her to offer some encouragement, and the team gets back to planning the heist. They test out the Mini Cooper they plan to use to transport the gold, using metal weights to simulate the expected weight of the gold. Stella is asked to test the car, but they soon discover that it can't carry the amount of gold they need it to. Rob suggests bringing in Wrench.
Charlie, this is Wrench.
Hey, what's up, man?
Rob tells me you got real talent.
A mechanic he knows, to work on the car. Wrench agrees to do the job for $10,000. Meanwhile, Lyle has hacked into the traffic system and is excited to show off his work to Charlie, causing chaos on the roads by changing the traffic lights at will. Charlie is impressed with Lyle's skill, and Left Ear is working on his explosives expertise. Once Wrench finishes working on the cars, they take them for a test drive, thrilled with the improvements. Later on, Steve pays a visit to Yevon to exchange more gold bars for cash. While they are talking, Yevon brings up the subject of a gold heist in Venice, which piques Steve's curiosity. Steve becomes angry and demands to know whom Yevon has told about the gold. When Yevon insists that he hasn't told anyone, Steve throws him onto his desk and shoots him in a fit of rage. Minutes later, Yevon's cousin Mashkov, the leader of a Ukrainian mafia gang, walks in to find him dead. In the meantime, Charlie takes Left Ear to buy explosive supplies from Skinny Pete, an arms dealer. On their way, Charlie cautions Left Ear not to stare at Skinny Pete. However, as they approach him, Left Ear becomes nervous and is unable to speak when he realizes that Skinny Pete is not actually skinny.
What's wrong?
Some nitrogen.
However, Skinny Pete mentions the Venice gold bars, but Charlie told him that they did not come to discuss that. However, the Ukrainian mafia was already on the hunt for Yevon's killer. They brought in one of Yevon's workers for questioning to gather information about the killer. The worker revealed that a big tattooed man with long black hair had inquired about the gold bars. The mafia boss quickly orders his team to visit Skinny Pete. Once they arrive, the boss interrogates Skinny Pete about his knowledge of the gold bars and his involvement in Yevon's death. Meanwhile, Charlie and the team are gearing up to proceed with their plan. Lyle keeps watch for Steve's movements, who eventually leaves in his car to meet with Stella for their date. Upon arrival, Charlie realizes that Steve's neighbor is throwing a party, and they won't be able to use explosives, so they had to cancel the plan. At this point, Stella doesn't have a choice but to meet Steve for her date. At the restaurant, Steve complimented Stella on her job and told her that she was too beautiful for it. As they continued to talk, Steve asked Stella to come with him to his place, but she rejected his offer and asked him to take things slow. Steve then questioned her trust in him, to which she replied by saying,
I trust everyone. It's a devil inside them I don't trust.
This was a phrase that her father always used, and Steve was familiar with it. He told her that he knew someone who had said the same thing to him. Steve grabbed Stella's hand. Suddenly, the whole team entered the restaurant, and Steve was shocked. He taunted Stella about her father's death. Stella tried to fight him, but Rob held her back. Steve is now aware that he's in danger. He boasts about his security system and how difficult it will be for the team to crack his safe. Charlie then leans across the table and punches him in the face. Later, at the team's hideout, Charlie comforts Stella about the altercation and the emotions that Steve's presence has stirred up in her. Meanwhile, Lyle delivers news that Steve plans to transport the gold to Mexico. Although the team is disappointed, Charlie sees this as an opportunity. He believes that they can intercept the safe before it leaves. Lyle also informs them that Steve intends to move the gold using safe trucks and a helicopter.
I've been trying to get to the gold in the safe, now the safe is coming to us. We're gonna boost it in transit.
Meanwhile, Charlie receives a call from Skinny Pete, who asks him about his involvement in Yevon's murder. Charlie denies any knowledge of the murder but asks for a favor. Charlie and Rob go to a truck store to buy a truck for their heist. While inspecting the new truck, Charlie calls Wrench and requests his assistance again. Wrench expresses his desire to be involved, and Charlie agrees to let him in. Later, Charlie and Left Ear work together to place explosives under the bridge where they plan to divert the truck carrying the gold. Later on, the team positioned themselves to observe how Steve planned to transport the gold. They noticed that he had arranged for 3 different safe trucks, most likely as a decoy. However, Charlie had anticipated this and suggested that they focus on the one being escorted by a helicopter. To confirm their suspicion, Lyle was instructed to inspect the tires of the 3 trucks and identify the one carrying a heavy load. After his assessment, Lyle identified truck 128 as the one carrying the gold.
Houston, we have our truck. It is number 128.
On getting to an intersection, the 3 trucks took different routes, while Lyle tracked them using traffic cameras. He also caused a traffic jam on the route that truck 128 was expected to take. Meanwhile, Steve was observing the situation from his helicopter and realized what was happening. He instructed his pilot to turn around. Eventually, Lyle used traffic lights to reroute truck 128 to the desired path. The team successfully tracks the truck and embarked on a high-speed run through a crowded street, down a staircase, and even through a train station to get under the bridge on time. Lyle had to stop the train using a button to ensure the team could pass. Finally, they reached under the bridge and waits for Wrench's signal. Once they got it, Left Ear detonated the explosives, causing the road to collapse and the truck to crash down into the hole. Wrench acted swiftly, covering up the hole with the press of a button. Steve responded by commanding his men to search for the truck. In the meantime, the team encountered a new obstacle after accessing the truck. They noticed that the safe inside was not the one they had anticipated, which surprised Stella. Charlie asked her if she could still crack it, to which she replied that it was a new model and extremely difficult to breach. Stella began drilling into the safe, but soon found it too challenging to continue. She decided to apply her skills and worked meticulously to open it. Eventually, she succeeded, and the team cheered as they transferred the gold into the Mini Cooper. Lyle was also excited. With the gold successfully moved, the team made their exit. Meanwhile, Steve's men are in pursuit, chasing the team down the tunnel. The chase heats up, and Steve's men start firing their weapons. Eventually, the team loses them and makes it onto the highway. However, Steve spots them easily from his helicopter and continues the pursuit, chasing them through an open field and back onto the road. At this point, Charlie decides to take a different route, but Steve follows him. After some time, Steve and Charlie come face to face, and Charlie barely escapes the helicopter's blades. Steve gets out of the helicopter and steals a car from a stranger to continue pursuing Charlie. Charlie reunites with the team, and they swiftly move the Mini Coopers onto a train car before leaving. Meanwhile, Steve relentlessly trails them. He spots the team leaving the train car and approaches Wrench, mistaking him for a worker, and offers him $5,000 to gain access to the Mini Coopers. Steve pays Wrench half of the money up front and promises to pay the rest after. Wrench takes the money, opens the train car, but to Steve's shock, Charlie is inside. Charlie praises Steve's tactics, but tells him that he now has the gold and Steve has nothing. Steve pulls out his gun to shoot Charlie, but it is too late as the Ukrainian mafia gang arrives on the scene. Steve was unfamiliar with the men, and thus inquired about their identity. The mafia leader introduced himself as Yevon's cousin. Steve knew he was in trouble and immediately denied any involvement in Yevon's death, claiming that Yevon was already dead when he saw him. He attempted to negotiate with the mafia boss, but Charlie had already made a deal with him. Stella seized the opportunity to punch Steve in the face, and the mafia took him away. Stella was happy to have avenged her father's death and hugged Charlie in celebration. Meanwhile, Steve continued to plead with the mafia boss, offering to double Charlie's offer. Finally, Charlie and the team continued to celebrate their victory as they boarded the train to embark on their journey. At its core, the movie shows the importance of teamwork and trust in accomplishing a common goal. The success of the heist relied heavily on the different skills and expertise of each team member, and they worked together cohesively to overcome challenges and obstacles. Additionally, trust is essential in any team effort, and the betrayal of Steve highlights the importance of being able to rely on each other and maintain open communication to prevent any potential double-crossing or misunderstandings. What do you guys think about this? Let us know in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more.